Okay guys, I was talking to one of my students who's on the $99 a month program. Her name's Karen, she lives in Houston. What that $99 a month program is, it's weekly Skype calls, it's just daily interaction as you're working through your practice, kind of giving you feedback, making sure you're on track. And beyond that, it's building a plan and then sticking to that plan and making adjustments where need be. So Karen wrote me today, said she was kind of struggling with her swing. She was asking about what she should be thinking about for her lead shoulder. So Karen is a left-handed player, so her lead shoulder is her right shoulder. That doesn't really matter too much. If you're a right-handed player, you're going to be thinking about your left shoulder when I talk about this. But I want to talk about how to get things to happen without being so like minor piece oriented. So like there's a bunch of little pieces in the golf swing, and then there are big things that make all these little pieces work. So for instance, in this situation, Karen was asking about her lead shoulder. Well, I can show you two kinds of golf swings. One, if I take the club back and I roll the club back, my lead shoulder will actually stay almost exactly where it was at address. So now I've hinged and rolled the club back. I haven't turned my shoulders a whole lot, and my lead shoulder hasn't really moved too much in space. It might have moved a couple inches. But if I focus on keeping the club face square to the arc, which is what we do in the square to square swing, obviously, if I focus on that, the lead shoulder, along with the left knee, the right leg, the left hip, the right hip, a lot of stuff's gonna happen for us that we don't actually have to think about. I think the lead shoulder is really important to be conscious of and aware of what it's doing, because if that lead shoulder isn't moving properly, or if we're not keeping the face square to the arc, that club face is rolling wide open. It's definitely a piece of it. I mean, that's why it's in there. But I'd rather have you guys focusing on something that has an influence on your ball flight. So Karen specifically, and for anyone else who's questioning how the body moves in space and in time while we're hitting a golf shot, let's try to focus on what the club face is doing relative to what we want our ball flight to do, and see if that sort of forces our intuition or forces our instinct to make some good moves. So if we focus on getting set, and as you guys know, in the square to square swing, we set with the handle kind of mimicking where we want our impact position to be. If we set there and we focus on keeping that club face square to the arc as we go back, you'll see that the lead shoulder goes sort of down toward the ball. So just by focusing or being conscious of what I want that club face to do, my lead shoulder moves the way I need it to move. And the club face at the end of the day is the most important piece of this if we're going to try to get consistent ball flight, predictable curve, and just really solid hits. So if we're going to think about the lead shoulder, I think it's good to understand what it does in the golf swing, but I think it's better if you focus on something that's more of an external thing rather than an internal thing. So like what you want this club head to do or club face to do to force your lead shoulder to move properly. So when I set up, again, I'm getting that handle in a position, getting my body and the handle in a position that sort of mimics impact, and then I'm going to go back and keep the club face square to the arc. And when I do that, my shoulder is going to move in the way it needs to move to make that happen. So I'll go ahead and hit a little one for you guys. And that swing, all I focused on, or all I was conscious of, is what that club face was doing, how square that club face was to the arc. And as long as that club face stays square to the arc, my lead shoulder has no choice but to go down. So try that, make a couple rehearsals, and do a couple different things. Do one where your club face stays really square to the arc and feel how down your lead shoulder goes. And then do another one where your club face kind of rolls open and feel the difference between those two. And then I think once you feel that, you'll realize that all you have to be aware of is what the club face is doing. Your lead shoulder will do what it needs to do to keep that club face square to the arc.